come from true prayer. Oops. Got it. It doesn't come from true prayer. It's an echo of true prayer, just as life on earth is an echo of true life or another form of life, right? It's a reflection. It's a reverberation in a mirror darkly, in a glass darkly. It's not the true reflection. So when you offer prayer, you kind of have to go through this whole jungle, right? An emotional, mental jungle of prayer, where initially you'll start off saying, oh God, I'll be a good person if you can help me get through this situation, or I promise I'll give up smoking if only this occurs. And we'd make all these kind of like entreatments in our prayer to try and wheedle the best out of a given situation where we feel like our only resource left is God. And we even try to haggle with God, right? Whereas the highest form of prayer is gratitude. But you can't jump from being a typical human giving off lip service as prayer to being grateful, because the bridge hasn't been made, right? The bridge hasn't been crossed. And it's in the crossing of the bridge between the worlds that you transform your relationships and see that you're supported by a higher power, right? Now, whether you're doing that as a religious observance or whether you're practicing the course or whatever, it doesn't really matter, because by its purpose alone, it gives it an element of truth. It leans towards truth, right? So it doesn't matter what your path to truth is. Some are faster, some are slower. But the reason that we're doing the course is because of its expediency in bringing about the reversal as quickly as possible. Okay, 365 lessons. You don't get that anywhere else. It could take you years and years and years. So as we're doing these lessons, what we're actually seeing as we transit from one thing to the next is our falsity, right? Being a journey into fear, we're seeing our falsity. We're not seeing our truth. The course can't show us our truth. No one can tell you what love is. It's an experience that you have to have. It's like Jesus says, miracles, you're right, but purification is necessary first. So the purification that we go through in doing the lessons and moreover, the application of the principles that the lessons embody is the stepping stones across that bridge, or the footsteps that we take across that bridge. And every time we take a step, it's always the same way in faith. And the precedence of any act of faith is always prayer. Okay. So when we pray initially, and I remember from my own experiences of prayer initially, it's like, why aren't my prayers ever answered? Why doesn't God answer my prayers? Doesn't he hear me? Doesn't he love me? And there's all this doubt, right? Because the prayers are offered from doubt, right? The prayers are offered from a place of lack, a place of need, rather than a place of gratitude and an acceptance of the fulfillment of God's promise within me now. Okay, which is why when we're learning to live from spirit, it doesn't take time. We can live from spirit now. But what happens is you say, you make a declaration, I'm going to live from spirit now. And the next thing that happens is some situation, person or event shows up to convince you that you're a body again. And you get to see how false your declaration is. You get to see how weak your declaration is. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's a learning process, right? You learn better by forgetting. And it's through seeing where it is that you're actually really at with your own integrity in prayer that you're able to make changes. Okay. Now, those changes are always helpful. Change is always helpful, but it's always going to be a letting go of some old perception or perspective of self and a walking into the new frame, which is always countenanced by the unknown. Okay, you're always facing the unknown. You don't know what God is, what love is, because you've forgotten, but I'm willing to take a leap of faith and step into that unknown moment, trusting that God's going to catch me, or God will support me, and God will be my power, right? If the prayer of the heart is filled with integrity, then in the moment where you take the leap of faith, you will recognize the support, because it's always presented in a way you can recognize. It wouldn't be helpful to, pardon me, present the divinity of the universe to you in a way where you didn't know what the hell was going on, right? It has to be out of accord with what you would associate with as normal occurrence, right? Now, you may say, oh, that was phenomena, or that was coincidence, or that was synchronicity, or that was a fluke, all these sorts of things. And there's many terms for all the sorts of weird things that happen on a spiritual journey if you're actually applying the principles properly. But they are all God, right? It doesn't matter whether you want to bracket it as phenomena or whether you want to bracket it as coincidence or whatever. It's all God, because God is everything, right? Learning then to let go of the preconceived ideas of what God is or what God should look like on my journey, as far as what I think love is, right? Learning to let go of what I think love is and accept love as it is, as it shows up, is part of the unraveling process of coming to accept God as all things, right? Now, in this world, we don't like to accept God as all things. We're very stubborn. We like to say, well, God's all the loving stuff and the beautiful stuff, and God's all the flowers and the bees and the, you know, the fresh mountain air. God, I can feel God all around me when I'm in this particular circumstance. But when I'm standing in the middle of whatever it is in Ukraine or somewhere like that, it's like, where is God in this situation? And we get all flustered, and, you know, there's like, surely I need to pray, right? Recognizing that God is everything, because in this world, God shows up as opportunity, right, to learn of him, right? In this world, God shows up as teaching, learning, relationship. It's like, it's me who's denied it. It's me that's chosen to have this experience of separation. And so I have to be led step by step, gently, 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 back into this full reassociation where God becomes an altruistic perspective rather than a figure, rather than an idol or a what I've made of God. Does that make sense? So rather than thinking God's some guy in the sky or some entity somewhere other than me, I'm learning that through the power of my decision, as I am willing to change, my ideas about God also fall apart or open up and continue to open up, so that I include God in as everything. Is that cool? So it's like, there's God appearing as a war in Ukraine. There's God appearing as some flowers and bees on a mountainside. It's all the same thing. But because we say God is love, right, we define love as being this versus not that, which is false. It's an illusion, right? If God is love and God is everything, God is all of these things that seem to go on, despite my judgments that love should look this way and not that way. Okay? When you stop for a second and pull yourself into perspective and accept that I don't know the meaning of life. I don't know why I'm here, what I'm doing, what the universe is about, why we're on a planet spinning 900 miles an hour in a universe, and the blazing ball of sun, you know, like it's quite bizarre. Why does it look like this? Why aren't we jellyfish and amoebic kind of things in the ocean talking to each other through telepathy or something? It can look like anything, but it looks like this in this sort of framework where for a second I think it's cool to judge things because somehow I get something out of it to verify what I think I am as a body, you know. But now all of a sudden I'm taking on board this spiritual perspective of myself where, hang on a minute, I'm not a body. And all of that other stuff has to be undone, right? Prayer then is part of the stuff that has to be undone. My ideas of prayer, because my ideas of prayer initially are praying for this situation to get better so that it's more like other situations that I call loving, right? That's not prayer. It's an echo of true prayer, but it's not prayer. Because of its purpose, it may have efficacy, but it's doubtful that you will recognize it, because God doesn't give in denial. God only gives of itself, right? And if you're still praying in denial, which is what that is, you're not going to be able to recognize it, other than the fact that it supports your notion of being separate from God. Okay? So as you transit through change, as you transit through shift, and your relationships start to show you that there actually is a higher power, it becomes more and more apparent that you don't actually understand the nature of that higher power. Whereas before, you thought that God was like you. It's like that old idea that we make God in the image of man, you know. Before, you thought God was more like you, and you could bargain and talk and all these sorts of things to God, and God would know exactly what you're on about, because God's God, and why wouldn't he know what I'm on about, you know? Then as you start to take these leaps of faith, and you realize that you're supported in ways that you don't understand. How did that happen? It was a miracle, right? You start to realize that God doesn't work the same way that you work, right? God knows what you want, not because he understands lack and he understands absence and all of these sorts of things, but because he understands the need to know him. Okay? God knows that the best interest of his son is to remember what his father is. So everything in answer to your prayer is a way for you to become closer and remember God better. But that occurs by letting go of what you think God was in the first place, and all the definitions you've put upon God, until finally you get to the point where you realize you can't define God at all, because love is completely undefinable, being unconditional and limitless and boundless forever and eternal. So eventually you're just praying to the great unknown. It's just like, I have no clue. And you're just allowing that prayer to come full expression into the void, into the ignorance, into the nothingness of your beautiful, open, vulnerable hearing. I don't know how to put it in another way. It's like you hear yourself pray. In that, it's your voice that answers you. It's your call is heard and answered by you, because you are not separate from God, and the thing that you are looking for is already within you, answering you now. It's your true self. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like the only thing that will ever fulfill you, the only thing that will ever make sense is the truth, right? Seek the truth and it will set you free, right? That is the only thing. It's within you now. It's calling you, and you're answering it in prayer. And in your prayer, you are actually answering yourself. It's not like there's a separate God. There's a God out there and I'm talking to God that's separate from me. It's like I'm reconnecting with a part of my mind that already knows perfectly well that I'm whole and perfect and safe. And it's offering me the remembrance of that, but for my asking. And that asking comes from my heart. So when I get into my heart, finally, I'll stop all this lip service and this talking about what I want in my prayer. And my prayer becomes gratitude. My prayer becomes open. My prayer becomes just like, wow. I've finally seen that I can't define God. I can't bargain. I can't make any kind of thing. I just ask in gratitude. It's like, thank you, Lord. Reveal yourself. I've been waiting for this moment. And it's like, I'm here. I'm not going to adjust to it. Remind me what I am. Right? Now, the prayer, that prayer, the prayer of the heart, the true prayer of gratitude for what it is that's actually already occurred, what's already been held out to you. That's at the bottom of the heap. Okay, that's at the bottom of the heart. It's in that really, really dark place that we're afraid to go, not because we don't know what's there, but because we do. We know that deep down in that place, there's nothing there but love. And as soon as we touch that place, as soon as we offer that prayer from the heart where there is nothing but love, it eliminates any potential to suddenly look over your shoulder into the dream and pretend that love could maybe just be something else as well. Maybe I'm a little bit special. As soon as you touch that unconditional love, as soon as you just cross that threshold in your consciousness and experience the beauty of that light and recognition that everything is the one thing, the dream's done. It's nothing to have it done as a concept, because salvation is freedom from concepts, right? You can read the course 1,000 times, year after year after year. You got to have the experience. And that comes through prayer, through true asking. Right? Now, you're not going to ask that true prayer until you want it for everyone else as well. Regardless of the judgments that's been projected out there, this person is not worthy. Why would I want that person to know about love because they're a murderer, or that person's whatever the definition you put on them. So the healing, the bridge we cross, is a bridge of crossing relationships where let me see that murderer differently. Let me see that leper differently. I don't even know if leprosy is still a thing, but let me see that whatever it is differently. Okay. Let me see eBay differently. The ants. Annie, I have to tell you this story about my ants. It's quite bizarre. I'm having an ant. So I don't know what the finality of this is, other than less than one. Nothing I see means anything. But I just want to tell you, because I'm sure you'll appreciate it. So the last Zoom meeting we had, I had these ants go up across my glasses. I didn't even know. They must have been in my beard maybe. And I'm reading or talking, and I got these little black speckly things, and there was ants. And then because it's been raining here so much, the ants are in my kitchen, where my dishes, I put them, and then at the end of the day I wash my dishes. There's lots of ants, right? And then I have a guy coming that's going to repaint the bathroom, and the girls have left some bottles of things in the bathroom shelves. So I'm in the cupboard, I'm cleaning out all this stuff, right? All these bottles and face paint and whatever they put on. And there's a jar of stuff for your skin, right? It's coconut and lanolin and whatever. I don't know what it is. It's got like 50 flavors in it. And I looked at it, and I'm looking at my skin, and it's like my skin's all dry and whatever. And so I thought, I'm going to put a heap of this on. So I pumped some stuff out and I rubbed it all over me. And then about maybe an hour or so later, I went to bed, and I woke up at like 2 or 3 a.m. and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? There's like 1 million ants all over me eating this stuff. Like they're eating it off my skin, this coconut stuff. It's like I was smothered in ants. Like I was literally head to toe in ants. I put it on my face, on my everywhere I could reach. It's like, what the hell? I'm having an ant healing. I thought it was just kind of funny, and I had to get up and change my sheets, and there's like dead ants, and I was like, oh. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but they say things happen in threes, so I'm waiting for my next ant. My next ant adventure, but nothing I see means anything. The ants don't mean anything, and it's just another opportunity to be grateful, So everything being an act of healing, the ants are healing me somehow. There's a catalyst there, like I'm remembering through my relationship with ants to be grateful, Anyway, I wanted to talk about prayer that way because that's all there is to this. It's literally all there is to this. And I had somebody this week on my page who was asking for money to go to some workshop. You probably noticed the post I put up today or yesterday, whatever it was, asking for money from anyone who would listen to, so they could go and attend some spiritual workshop, which is just like, how anyone ever hears this message finally, I don't know, right? I really have no clue, because at the end of the day, it's prayer. That's it. Get on your knees and pray, right? That'll be $1,000. Thanks for that information. And I just thought, like I have to put this declaration out there that all of these bloody faith peddlers and all of these people, like there was one guy that was charging $3,500 to go to Costa Rica for a week. It's like, why not just ready? Let's forgive now. And here we are. This is it. Ready? Join me in this moment. It doesn't take a week. It doesn't take an air flight to anywhere. It's ready. It's here and now. This is it. It's a choice. It's a decision to be happy. That's it. Now stay in that decision. Make the decision and stay in it. And the next thing that's going to happen, of course, is somebody's going to come along to dim your shine or cast the shade. That's what all the kids are saying now, the cool kids. Don't throw shade on me, man. Do they say that in America? Do they don't throw the shade? Yeah, 5 years ago. I'm a little behind. But so I put a declaration on my page, and I'm always looking for what I react to in what comes back. So when you make a declaration, right, so you'll notice as you go through your own process, you'll notice that your lack of integrity demands attention, right? You wouldn't need the course. You wouldn't need anything if you had total integrity in this moment here and now, right? But because we don't believe in ourselves, we don't love ourselves unconditionally, we have this course with 365 lessons for dummies, and we have to do this whole process, right? Now, in the doing of the process, you'll see where your prayer fails, right? And Jesus says, I stand halfway between man and God in case your prayer fails. It's like, it's not in case, it's gonna fail, right? It's gonna fail. Jesus is far too soft, but he doesn't give me the soft version. He kicks my ass, but it's gonna fail, right? One of the things that happen when you see your prayer fails, it's like, God didn't answer my prayers. Well, yes, he did, but because you had no integrity, your mind wasn't awaken, responsive enough to pick up on the answer that the prayer was actually presenting, right? So one of the things that happens then, it becomes helpful to make a declaration, right? You're always declaring the nature of the principles that you're using to stay true to the moment of here and now, right? Which in our case is going to be forgiveness, tolerance, patience, all of these things that without them, we get dragged off into the stories and the dramas of the ants or what happened yesterday or any kind of thing that comes along, right? And we're gone. And the next thing you know, we've spent a whole week worrying about shit rather than living in the here and the now. And so one of the things that's helpful is to make a declaration, because it'll show you your integrity or lack of. So you put up a post or you stand up in a public place or you whatever, right? Imagine for a second, 2,000 odd years ago, if you were given the role of Jesus by the tech crew or the whatever we can call them these days. Imagine if that fell on your shoulders to represent that these teachings as Jesus did. As soon as you stand up on the mount and start to offer, exactly, I know. I'm just doing this in a common framework. As soon as you stand up there and you say, love thy enemy, right, and everyone's looking at you, you can't not love thy enemy, right? Exactly. You can't go out and stab enemies. You're now responsible and your own integrity is on show, okay? Which is why when you make a declaration of this, it's like in churches, people stand up and they do, what's that where you eat the bread and that's your, I forget what it's called. Yeah, whatever.
Holy Communion.
Communion. You do your communion. Thank you, dear one Annie. So you do your communion, and everybody's witnessing. Like when you do a baptism, everybody's there. They witness your event, and then it's up to you to stay true to what that represents. Right? Stay true to what that means, and you learn the way of staying true to it. Right, according to whatever doctrine or non-doctrine that you're into. So when you make a declaration, I'm whole and perfect as God created me, the world, which represents the denial of that, which it always will, is always going to present you with an opportunity to forgive your own denial of that. Something's going to show up, some person, situation, or event to show up to convince you that you're crazy, or that maybe you're not as God created you for some reason or whatever, and that you're a body. Because the world will always, that's its purpose, the purpose you've given it, the world will always present you the notion that you're a body, because the ego, which is the world, is the domain of ego, only knows what's within its own framework of association. It doesn't know what's outside of it. Okay? So it can't offer you validation of your declaration. All it can say is, don't be silly, just come back and join the party of death, right? And you're either going to react to it, which verifies the party of death, right, and then make it real to you, and then whoop, you're back in it, or you're going to stand defenseless in the face of the rejection of your declaration and let the pieces fall where they may. Right? Now, that's going to take a moment of faith as well, because a lot of things, a lot of people, and especially those closest to you, like a prophet's never welcome in their own home, those closest to you are going to go, what the hell have you been smoking? What are you on? What do you mean I am as God created me? Right? And I'm talking in a formal declaration here, something like that. As soon as you say, well, this is how it is, and that's blah, 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 you're validating the denial. Do you get that? Right? You're giving credence to the idea of that your declaration possibly needs to be backed up somehow. It doesn't. God is the guarantee of it. Okay? God is the guarantee of your declaration that you're whole and perfect. In that declaration, you're truing up. You're putting your finger on your own nose, saying, I am as God created me. The world can do whatever the hell it wants. I don't care. Right? It's gonna reject you. Jesus said, don't expect to teach this teaching and get any better treatment than I got. Right? The world does not want to hear that there is no world. The world does not want to hear that you're whole and perfect, that you are the Christ along with me. Okay? But your declaration will bring to you the reflection or the residue of your denial. Right? It's an incredibly useful tool. And you'll get to see how much reaction you have, which is your residue or your karma, that still exists in counterpart to your declaration, right? In opposition to your declaration. Someone close to your mother or your spouse or whatever is going to say, I think you need medical help or psychological help. This spiritual stuff's going to your head and blah, 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 and you're not like us anymore. That's a good thing. Okay? Not a good thing that you're not like them anymore, but that is being reflected back to you because you're in transition, right? If you were in a spiritual transition, in a process of spiritual transition, and you weren't changing, then I would tell you go and do something else, right? But the fact that you're getting a reflection back that's concerned about what's going on for you or trying to bring you back into the fold, all of this sort of stuff, that's a good thing, right? That means you're following Jesus. The transformation is working. Don't defend yourself. Just keep making declarations, and then learn to be aware of when the denial of that declaration occurs, right? When it comes back to you, right? And see where it is that you react to it, because it's always going to trigger you. You're always going to get emotional. How dare you deny my spiritual journey? How dare, whatever. Who are you to judge me for my declaration? All these sorts of things. It's like, well, I'm only ever judging myself. And this person that's showing up is showing up as the residue of my own denial of my declaration. It's not someone else out there telling me I'm full of shit. It's me. It's my mind reflected out there denying my declaration. Right now, eventually you get to the point where as you refuse to defend yourself against your reflections, it'll bring you into a moment of like a pregnant pause, right? If you've ever been in a restaurant with a group of people and then no one's got anything to say and there's like this moment and in your head, you're like, oh my God, am I going to really talk about the weather? Nice weather we're having. Am I going to try and break this pregnant pause with some meaningless, trivial shit, right? Don't do it, okay? In the moment where you make your declaration and it gets rejected and it's in your face and you feel all that emotionality, like you need to justify yourself or whatever, don't do that. You don't have to know what else to do, but just don't do that, right? That's going to bring up all that emotion. That's going to bring up all that anxiety about that moment, okay? On the flip side of that anxiety is God, okay? Or a holy instant, let's put it that way. On the flip side of that anxiety, if you refuse to adjust, if I refuse to adjust to my anxiety or my stress or my anger or my whatever, it has a threshold. There is only so much emotional load contained in any given situation, okay? But in any given situation, I am able to access the lever that opens the door on everything, or the door handle that opens the door on everything, okay? I don't know if that's, everything's just energy, okay? Everything's just light. So when my declaration of perfection is rejected, it's going to trigger me. I thought you were my friend and you're supporting me in my spiritual quest, and now you're just telling me I'm crazy and whatever, right? Everyone will go through that sort of stuff. However it shows up, that may not be the scenario, but it'll show up somehow to reject your declaration. But you're always declaring your perfection, which is not of this world. If you're trying to declare, oh, I'm a nice person, blah, 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 I'm choosing not, you know, you're still framing yourself within the matrix, within the world, all right? Your declaration has to be of God, God's version of you, not your version of you. There's no point being a better person because you still die at the end of it, right? Your declaration comes from the offering of salvation and the embodiment of the principles and the ideas that that salvation is given to you under, okay, which is that you are spirit, not flesh. So your declaration, as you stand up and you declare, hey, I'm spirit, I'm not flesh, all these stories about me, my body, this, Dave, that, Dave did something, Dave didn't do something, that's all nonsense. It's all rubbish. There is no Dave. There is no world, right? But for one moment, you have to stand up totally and declare that. There's no Tina, there's no Angela, there's no Alice, there's no Anna, there's no Vinka, there's no Annie, there's no Dave. There is just one mind waking up, which is looking at or reassociating itself in a different framework so that it can pursue a new goal that's been given it under auspices that aren't its own. Okay? Which is salvation. Salvation is not of you, but it's for you. Salvation was brought by Jesus. The idea of forgiveness wasn't in the human psyche prior to Jesus's journey. Prior to that, it was an eye for an eye. And Jesus said, no, I've come with a new covenant. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and power, and your neighbor as yourself. It's not that difficult. But in staying true to that, there's a purification that's required. And so the declaration to declare your perfection, right, which is not of this world, but is reflected in this world, right, to declare your perfection is something that is going to be incredibly valuable to you because it's going to show you where you're actually at. If you stand up in a crowd of people who know you and declare that, hey, I'm the Christ, like Jesus did, and they're going to go, no, you're just the carpenter. Who do you think you are? You're just the carpenter, son of Mary and Joseph. And Jesus, Jesus is like, I'm dust off my sandals and move on. He's not going to stay there and argue with them for why he is the Son of God, right? That's not his purpose. His purpose is to make the declaration, let it affect everyone and everything, however that occurs, and just move on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing, right? He's presenting new ideas, fresh ideas that reference himself outside of the framework of time and space. He still operates within time and space, but as a passerby, as an observer. Can you hear that? fulfilling as he goes his own obligation to the atonement, which in his case was to demonstrate there is no death through the resurrection. Okay, and he had to undergo that whole thing, but he's like, as he says, that wasn't me on the cross. That's not me. That's just my body, my vessel. It's what I was using just to get the message out. It's like the Course. The Course is a book. We use a book to get the message out. Or we can verbally speak it like we're doing now. We can sort of talk about it in a frame of reference that's sort of common to us all because we've been studying it for a bit and we're sort of getting some idea of actually what's really going on here in the world on a higher level, rather than just thinking that, you know, we'll find out when we die, which is the general reaction to, you know, when you say to people, what do you think about the afterlife? And they'll be like, well, I'll find out when I die. It's like, no, you won't. You'll be back here again before you died, just answering that question to someone else in another frame of time and space. But it'll be the same question, the same person, the same thing as your own, because it's just me. It's just my own mind looking at the idea of what I am. You know? So in my making of the declaration, let the world deny me. That's great. If the world doesn't deny me, then it's like, really, we must be close to the end of time. Am I in the restaurant at the end of the universe, Annie? And like, is this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? You know, it's like everybody there knows that they're there to watch the end of the universe. There's no one there under any illusion that this is where you come to do that. You know, it's kind of funny. But out in the world, everybody's just like, well, what's your purpose? What are you here for? What are you doing today? Isn't it lovely weather? Trying to fill in that emptiness, trying to fill in that gap, trying to fill in that moment where we don't know what the fuck's going on, pardon the French, and make it real to ourselves that what we think is going on is actually what's going on, and it's not. You know? You have eyes but don't see and ears but don't hear. It's kind of funny stuff. Anyway, is that kind of clear? Anyone got a question about declarations? Did we covered that pretty well? So what we're going to do as an exercise now is to make a declaration. Okay? That declaration has to come from you, not just because I say, let's do this together. You've got to feel it in your heart. I want to make a declaration, right? It's got to be something that, imagine that your journey is an experiment. It's a bold experiment, right? I saw a bumper sticker once that said, life is either an incredible journey or nothing at all, right? Salvation is the most incredible journey there is. Enlightenment is the most incredible journey there is. You're either fully participating in it, or you're sitting on the sidelines going, no, I don't know. Maybe I'll do another workshop and spend $3,000, go to Costa Rica before I actually, you know, whatever. And I know that sounds a little judgmental, but the whole purpose of this thing is to save time. The whole purpose of the course is to collapse time so that we're not out there making useless journeys, going to listen to more and more people like me tell us what we already know and pay for it, which is even more ridiculous. Ridiculous compared to what? I don't know. It's all pretty ridiculous, but, you know, I guess I have a personal joy and a personal thing that I like to share, because this was offered to me as fartus gratis, you know, like for free. It was like a voice from the sky, go to Byron Bay. And when I got to Byron Bay, nobody asked me ever for anything. They just gave and gave and gave. And the opportunity of the teacher, the true teacher, will give, right? Rather than ask for money or donations or whatever. The true teacher will give you something. So, and we went to see, did you come, Annie, when we went to see, or was Alice, did you come when we went to see Armichi up at the Gold Coast? The mother, you didn't go? So,
not with
Alice,
you guys, I did another time.
Okay. I went up with Ted and Janelle and the whole thing. Yeah, it was a beautiful thing. There was like 1,500, 2,000 people in the hall. It was packed, absolutely packed. And they had a podium. If you don't know Armichi, she's a very devout and a really cool teacher for her people, and does a lot with orphanages and all that, which most people in India do.
The hugging
But
saint?
hey,
She's the hugging one? The one that hugs?
yeah, she's the hugging, the mother. They call her the mother. And so she'll do her talk, and it's in Hindi, whatever, and sometimes, you know, but you just get the vibration, right? It's not about or Tamil, whatever. It's not about the words. She's saying the words, but you feel it. You feel it because it's coming from her truth. Okay, you know that she's authentic in the whole thing. You can't think. So anyway, she gives you a chocolate, right? It's a symbol, right? So you go up and you have a hug after the thing. You can go up, you get a ticket, and you go up, and she'll give you a hug, and she'll say "ama ama ama" in your ear, which I don't know what that means in Hindi. Maybe it means mother or something. But and then she gives you this little chocolate. I forget, Reese's something, little tiny thing, as a gratitude, right, for bringing her the opportunity to heal mind. Okay, she's accepting your karma. She's accepting your offering. It's not the other way around like it is here in the West, where it seems like the teacher is offering something the student doesn't know, right, and charging money for that at a conference or a retreat, or, you know, it's kind of absurd. But throughout India, it's understood that the healer is the student, and the student is actually the person posing as the teacher, right? As a teacher of God, I am the learner. Teacher of God is a declaration and a mantle that I have to take on. It's a step I have to step up onto to teach so that I can hear. And everyone and everything that comes to me presents me an opportunity to hear in a certain way, whether they're denying me or whether they're accepting me. It doesn't matter. But I have to learn how it is that each of those two ways plays out. Otherwise, I'm going to defend myself against the one I think I don't like and be happy about the one I think I do like, which is still duality, still separation. Okay, so I have to learn to be grateful. I have to learn how to be grateful to both those that say they love me and want to join with me in this holy instant now, and those that want to tell me that I'm full of shit. Okay, I'm grateful to both, equally grateful. There's no falsity in that gratitude. Okay, because either frame of reference is equally useful to me in my atonement. It's equally the same gift, right? I'm not valuing one more than the other. It's not the words, it's the expression. One gives me an opportunity to become defenseless, and the other one gives me an opportunity to become impassioned with the joining. Okay, and it's both the same thing. So we're going to do a declaration, impassioned with the willingness to join, let's say, and we're going to see where it is. And this comes down to our doing our light sessions and things like that, right? Which will transit through from what we're doing now with the visionary stuff to going to the next sort of level. It shows me where it is that my relationship is going to be changing in my own mind as I transit through the particulars of my own purification process, right? It has to change because change is the nature of everything in the world, okay? If I'm trying to maintain some comfort zone, some little spiritual bubble where nothing ever changes because then I can be peaceful, that's not it, all right? Because something's going to come along and pop that bubble, and the next thing you know, it's like, what happened to that peaceful moment I had? I need to run back into the rainforest or light some incense or sage waft. What's that thing you burnt your house down with? The sage lamp or something.
Sage.
So if you're up for it, raise your hand. No, Annie, yeah. Yep. Anna, Vinka. Anna's got two hands up. That's good. So I'm going to call upon each of you individually. Okay, we're going to make a declaration. I want you to sit for a moment though prior to doing it. Okay, just sit quietly, close your eyes, and just imagine if you had a crowd of people who knew you and who didn't know you, or they're all mixed, you know, whatever, and you suddenly had a revelation that you were a child of God, that you were spirit, that you were pure, that you were perfect, all of this sort of thing, and they knew you as how they know you now. What is it you're going to declare to them to offer them your new certainty that your origins or your identity hails from a non-linear, non-temporal association or non-association and is eternal? Okay, you're going to find it in your heart and in your mind to reference your relationship with God, right? Because we have to work outside of the framework of the ego framework, right? And then all hell's going to break loose, hopefully.
Already did.
And I've been in situations, especially years ago when I was in Byron Bay, where we would do declaration classes, and some people couldn't do it. Some people literally could not stand up and declare their perfection because of the guilt that was hidden and buried deep within. And that's fine too. If you can't do it, if you find that you can't make a declaration, it gives you something to look at. Okay, which is what the whole point of the declaration is for in the first place. It gives you an opportunity for healing, right? It takes you out of the comfort zone. And that's what this is about, getting out of our comfort zone and getting into the work, getting into the true crux of forgiveness, because I'm only forgiving myself. All right. So, Tina, we're going to start with you, unless you want to go first, Alice.
Okay.
Cool.
So just declare, I'm perfect.
So
I'm
I'm
healed. I'm whole.
going to get you to stand up. Okay, I want you to stand up. When you're ready, take a deep breath and just connect with the spirit within you, connect with the Holy Spirit. And I want you to declare your perfection, right, which is not of this world. When you're ready. And you'll get to see where you're at with it. Does it feel silly? Do I feel embarrassed doing this? All of these sorts of things. Everything's useful, right? Everything's useful. Everything is showing you a reflection or a, you know, where you're at with your own integrity, with the principles that we're all here saying that we want to embody and apply so that we can get the results of doing that, right? But we're always here looking at how false we are. Okay.
Yeah, I've just had 2 weeks of COVID, so I'm pretty ready.
Say what again? You had 2 weeks what?
Of COVID.
Oh, good on you. That's a body. I'll join you in that for a second.
But yeah, I'm not of this world. I'm spirit. I'm a healer and I'm healed. And I'm unlimited. And I'm loved. Healed and whole.
Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. So now the next thing that happens, it'll either show up in your own thoughts, or it'll show up in association with a relationship or a friend, you know, whatever. Something in your world is going to have to deny that. Okay. it's up to you to be vigilant for that, so that you can practice defenselessness and launch yourself into that moment, into that void moment, into that moment where the tendency is to want to fill in the blank.
Mm.
All right. Because on the other side of not filling in the blank is the holy instant. When you leave the slate clean, God will fill it up. God will flow into that empty space that you leave and fill it up and be your supply.
Nice.
Is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
So your homework is to be vigilant for your declaration.
That's nice.
Annie,
yeah.
would you do one? Everybody's coughing.
Just thinking about it's bringing the fur ball up.
Right. Right. Good.
Alice took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say too, I'm not of this world. I am pure, radiant light, ever extending, forever, perfect, whole, unspeakable. I am as God created me. I am light. There is only light.
Thank you, Father. Anna, you want to have a crack at it? It's all or nothing.
Sure.
Take a breath. Yes.
I am love's full expression, whole and eternal. One with my Father. Radiant light forever. I am love. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Tina. Yes.
I am. I am. I am one with my Father. I am the perfect presence and expression of God's joy and light and life. I am as God created me, whole and perfect and complete. God's presence flows through me, expresses fully through me. I am His love. I am His fullness. I am His light. I am all that is. And I am unashamed. I am complete. I am beyond this world. I am one with you. I'm here. Oh, I'm yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Father. Angela. You'll have to unmute your microphone.
God. God is with me. Yes. I know God is with me. Allow me with me everywhere I go. I feel. God is peace, the peace. God is the peace I feel. It's God. He's love. He's calm. God brings me the calm. God is calm. God's light is with me everywhere. I walk in God's light. God's light is with me. Every footstep, every breath I take. God is with me. I am the light of God.
Thank you. Thank you, Father. Vinka.
I am unconditional love. I am the abundance of joy and happiness. I am peace. I am whole. I am as God created me. Through many lifetimes, I've come to be in this moment now. In this time and space. To be as the Creator created me. To be the abundance and the unconditional love, the peace and the joy and the wholeness and the holiness. How He created me, how He created all that is.
Yes.
Thank you. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Your reception is a little bit breaking up, Vinka, but that was beautiful. Thank you. Probably the heavy rain we're having at the moment. I know you're just down the road from me somewhere.
Yes.
So your declaration is the declaration of your certainty of your perfection, even if you're not certain of it, even if you think, I'm not so certain.
We didn't hear yours, dear one.
Oh, I'm the Holy Son of God himself. Didn't you get that when you came in? It was on the memo. It's on billboards. Yes, yes. I'm perfect as my Father created me. Thank you. So your declaration is entirely personal and sacred and beautiful and wonderful. And try to carry it with you out into the world. Okay? Not in a way where you're verbally telling everybody perhaps, but in a way where you become aware when something challenges your declaration, right? And remember to be defenseless. Do not justify yourself in this world. A child of God needs not justify themselves for anything. All right? The world cannot tell you who you are. The only verification you need is the one you already have within you, which is of God. That's it. The world cannot tell you who you are. Do not defend yourself and do not justify yourself to the imagery. Okay? That doesn't mean you don't be polite and don't be merciful and whatever in your words and things like that. But in the awareness of your declaration, there are those that will join you in it and those that will reject you. Jesus says they're either for you or against you. And as some of you could have seen just then, it brings up a lot of emotionality. All right? It's a very impassioned place to make a declaration of your perfection. You've been waiting to be let off the leash so that you could say that declaration for thousands of years, millions of years, and you feel good to do it. It feels good. I love to stand up and say that I'm perfect in a world that seems to want to condemn everything that does that. Right? All of a sudden, I'm the fly in the ointment and the world will have to reject me. Either that, or I'm going to compromise my declaration and get sucked back into the dramas of the world. I am the Christ along with you, and that is all I am. I'm not a Dave. I don't mind you using my name as Dave for a minute, but that only refers to my avatar, not to me. I'll call you by your names, but it only refers to your avatar, not to what you are with me in God, which is the Christ. It's tricky to stay awake. All right? It's a process of learning to stay awake. It's easy to fall asleep again back in the dream, especially when your mind is not fully trained. Okay? A partly trained mind is the same as an untrained mind. It accomplishes nothing. I'm telling you, there is no world. You're dreaming. The real you, or the real idea of you in the mind of God, is in eternity, asleep, dreaming that it's here having this Zoom meeting. Look around you. All of this is not real. It's virtual. It's not what reality is because it's not eternal. Okay? Now you're awake. You're awake in your dream. Now it's up to you to awaken from the dream. Right? It's one thing to realize conceptually and associatively that the world could possibly be an illusion, that it might be just the Maya or the dreaming. Okay? In Australia, our Aboriginal people, the older ones at least that still have a recall of their spiritual learnings, refer to the world as the dreaming. They're walking in their dreaming. And whatever they're doing, if they're going to the waterhole, it's their waterhole dreaming. That's how they talk about it. If they're climbing a mountain, they're climbing their mountain dreaming, or they're doing their mountain climbing dreaming. They always put the dreaming to everything. They're under no illusions of the fact that what they're doing isn't really real, but that instead of, in their perspective, instead of having this place where they awaken from it, they wait to be collected. They wait to be, and it's not really any different to our thing where God takes the final step himself. When their dreaming is finished, they know that the Spirit will come and get them. Right? It's really quite beautiful. It's exactly the same for us. When our purification is done, they'll come and get you. Right? When I had my meeting with the blue people, all I remember from that meeting was, when you're done, we'll come and get you, or when it's time, we'll come and get you. That's what they told me. I don't know when that is. I don't know what kind of signifies that I'm done, or when that thing, Jesus has already told me I'm done. But whenever it's time, I guess when I finish my teaching assignment or learning assignment, they'll come and get me. Right? I don't really care either way about that. I have this other guarantee, this whole thing about my perfection from God, which is enough. Whatever's next, it'll be whatever it's going to be anyway, right? It's the same as whatever yesterday. It was always going to be whatever yesterday happened. It doesn't really matter. But my covenant is with God. Okay? My covenant is with God, and my declaration is that I am one with my Father. The Father and the Son are one, and I am the Holy Son of God himself, along with you, including the ants, all living things. Anyway, that's it. Be vigilant for your declaration, okay? You've made the declaration. If you find that you defend yourself, and this is the other thing I just wanted to add to that. That declaration was very specific. It was regarding your identity, okay? It's just as possible and necessary to make that same declaration throughout the day in your daily affairs, right? Let's say you're baking a cake and your friend is there and you're saying, no, it's 2 eggs. That's your declaration. And your friend is going to say, no, it's 1 egg. Don't defend yourself. It's the same thing, right? All defense is defense against love, defense against God. If you can recognize that baking the cake is just as much salvation, right, because of your coming together for that single purpose as anything else is, right? You'll see how this works in every aspect of your life. Okay? Yes, wow, and thank you. 1 egg it is. All right? You'll see how this works in every aspect of your life. Don't defend yourself. Don't justify yourself. You're perfect. You're perfect. This is a dream from which we're now learning how to awaken, because we already did. But that's another whole meeting. We'll get into that another time. Thanks for joining. I hope it's been helpful. Angela and Annie and Alice and Vinka and Anna and Tina. Peace. And Dave.
Bye, loves. These are hearts. See you next time. Bye, Alice.